It gaff till a gaff. It gaff till a gaff. I'm illy with the till a gaff. Illy with the till a gaff. Nit gaff, nit gaff. Nit gaff, nit gaff.
There you go.
What's going on, Father?
Yeah, everything's going on. That's why.
I feel you, my brother. I feel you.
There's a lot of learning taking place here.
Say again?
There's a lot of learning taking place here.
Oh, my brother. Yeah, man.
Okay.
My brother.
Okay, yes.
I'm blessed to have you here, man. That's all I know.
You know, it's always good to be in the third dimension.
Some men will tell you that's where we come from.
Yeah, but I know it to be more organic than this.
Yeah, that's real, my brother. That's real. It's like you spend a whole life trying to imitate, innit? That's on the real, my brother.
Well, yep.
I'm listening to Karen.
You can say that you have tweaked the mind to succumb to this madness in a time where I've been looking to leave this madness. However, everything is everything.
You know, that's well, as always, brother, that's profound. And it's true. You know what I mean? That is absolute real, my brother. Because, you know, I had this conversation and I said, and you know me, I'm an extremist. So it was like, it's either a kibbutz. You understand? It's either Amazon. It's like me with one little thing around my back here, I'm holding my balls, spear. And
that for me is not extreme. That is with nature.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. But you know me, I was watching that. I was like, it's one of the two. Because the middle ground is where the suffering.
Well, you see, as usual, you know, some people have learned so much within a short period of time that they're still trying to adjust the control of the vision and sound.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Well, I got lucky, my brother, because like I said, I went into this madness for a job thing on the IT. So I get it. I can kind of understand, put my hands on it. I just recognize it as madness. But I'll be honest with you, my brother, it's a strange thing. Like, we reasoned the first time we reasoned for a few years. And you're right, when it's like got into the madness, like into the Instagram, into the digital marketing, it's matrix for me now. Yeah. But I always figure like, you know, it's back to that whole scenario of, for me, I was on a team like, there's no point me having it all around me, having worked in that industry for X amount of years and don't make the benefit of it. Because everybody else is taking the benefit of it, man. It's a story of the devil has the best tunes.
Well, you know, I don't bring he or she into this madness. I recognize the madness for what it is.
Same.
The most beautiful tunes are the vibrations from one and one. You know?
For real. And bounce back to some nature.
Yeah, how you mean? You know, when Father created us, and then a man come and tell you come from monkey. Then a man tell you say you come from fish. Then a man come tell you that, you know, there's so many different type of ape that you come from. You have to look and ponder and ask the question, if that is so, then why is it that at the core of the earth, you will find the same chemical mixture that you find in man?
Yeah.
When you look in the ground, you'll find the same atoms, the same things that make up man. When you look on the water, to the ratio of land, it's the same.
For real.
We are of the earth.
For real. And people, I've heard people say you will find the same chemical mixture wherever back out there in the universe.
That's what I'm saying to you. That's what I'm saying. You're frozen. You're frozen.
I was laughing. I was thinking like, they froze you already. You don't even start talk.
Yeah.
One of them officers like, turn that shit off now. We can't continue, Captain. Turn that shit off now.
Yeah, you know?
Man, we have to get to the point.
Love
We have to get to the point.
love.
We have to get to the point quickly, bro. The blessing is the more things change, the more they stay the same.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Brother, it's but listen, my brother, man, like, well, firstly, I don't even need to pick you up because I could take hours for doing that. But I have to say, now I have you, and I want to put this out publicly, that I wanted to thank you publicly for being my mentor and my guide for so many years up until today.
Brother, it is, listen, I appreciate and I hear what you say, but what you need to understand is this. You know, I was raised with this one saying, each one teach one. Careful, man. We are each other's brother keeper. So when we're in company, that company is not a fleeting moment. It's for a period of time. You know? That's all I focus on. And thank you very much, but I was sent to do works. We were all sent to do works. And
without a doubt.
We have to continue.
Without a doubt. But you know what, as you know, I think if you don't really appreciate things, then I'm a big believer in recognizing the appreciation. It's funny, I know it pisses some people off because sometimes people get a little uncomfortable. But I have a very strong belief that you have to, not just for the other person, but for yourself, if that makes any sense. If you don't vocalize your appreciation, in my mind, it means that you don't really understand how much value that you was given. You get me?
No.
And I'm very blessed, you know, my brother, because I have one or two people, this is not a boast, this is just to put in relation, who will tell me, for example, yeah, brother, thank you, showed me certain things, and I stayed away from certain things, and my life went a certain way. You get me? And the blessing of mentorship, which I'm getting very much into now, is understanding that, okay, if a man can tell me that, then I have to very much recognize the people who are the reason I'm alive today. If a man tell me, yeah, I was getting involved in rare, and they were going to take me into this direction and I could have been dead, then I very much must realize the people who took me from a certain place and directed me and guided me and helped me and scolded me when I was wrong and listened to me when I was stupid and advised me in the right way so I didn't become reactionary and run off. And why I'm alive today and why I'm alive to have two beautiful children going out into the world, all them things that might not have happened. So again, my brother, thank you.
No. I have to, because you see, the key thing I think you don't understand is this. Father bring us together for a reason. Now, you, a young man at the time, I was there to provide a provision for you. Okay? You allowed me access to you, the group, and the music, which then allowed me to listen to what the young people of the time were also talking. And if you remember, when you started to talk, I sat down and I smiled. I smiled because I said, hey, these young people actually understand what is taking place.
Yeah.
It's not just a fitting thing. So when you hear and see things which is sense, you have to invest. You have to invest. Even when some things are not making sense there, but by the actions of the individuals make sense. You have to invest. So thank you.
No, we'll give thanks, man. Because, you know, this is the conversation I wanted to have. Here's the first thing, you know, that these sessions are really for you, not me. As in, for you to make sure that anything that you want to say on this platform is what gets said. But what was interesting for me is, you know, from my journey and my experience, you know, like I said, that being mentored and guided with you. That I know you said that now you're involved in a men's group.
Yep.
Yeah, so I wanted you kind of firstly just to, because you know they're going to cut this off at some point, right? One of us is going to say, we're going to say something. Feed gone dead. So
you'll be lucky if you can get this out there, brother.
So I'm not going to run this as questions, but I know I might need to, like, yeah, I mean, to run through some things and to get you some information out. But how would you want to present that? You understand? How would you present that so people understand what it is you're doing?
Let me just present it how it is. We're living in a period of time where there's a division between men and young men and boys. Even though you may live in the same house, what is the communication between men, young men, and boys? What is the time that is spent together? What is the time spent outside? What I have noticed is outside, men do not communicate with young men unless they have to work together. And with boys, you seem like a fly, which is just a squat. So what I do, I have a group, two groups, one of men and one with men working and talking with young men. We come, we sit down, and we talk about issues pertaining to society, issues pertaining to men. And that way we're able to understand each other's viewpoint and come to a consensus of what are we actually dealing with. But at the beginning, it is a simple thing. It's just to open the channels for men to talk to men.
Yeah.
And it's regardless of culture, regardless of race, regardless of religion, to talk. We are each other's keepers. If we cannot talk to each other, how are we going to protect each other? How are we going to protect each other's child who are out there at this time? How?
Yeah.
How? We know the society we live in right now is excellent at dividing. Dividing the people through culture, through language, through class.
Yeah.
If we don't go to break that separation, it's not going to happen. At the same time, I'm also involved with another group of men who will come together and will talk. And this talking will deal with most things. But the key is, what are you not prepared to talk about? And to answer why. Because we have to respect a level of, we have to respect the individual. But it's why you're not prepared to talk about this. But then, over a period of time, people realize that if you don't talk about it, you wear it like a boulder. And when it comes home to roost, how are you going to deal with it? So that's what we do. Men.
Wow. Well, you know what I think, my brother? I'm astounded. So I want to come to the second one, I think, last. I wanted to come to it first, but then I realized that, that would probably be a bad idea for me. No, you know why? Because that is so real. You get me? I mean, I listen, here's the thing. Obvious for anybody who's listening, there is no level of impartiality when I'm dealing with you. But one thing I know, one of the MANSDEM episodes is because, in my opinion, I rephrase it. I said there's a good story in everybody. Yeah. I've met so many people working, certain people at work, they might be in the 70s or the 80s, and they tell me about how their life was when they was growing up in the 40s or the 50s or the, yeah, and I'm astounded, I'm interested. Their day-to-day experiences are so different to mine, you get me? And then even within that, my brother, I know that I feel very, very blessed to come from a very, blessed group of people, to be in a very blessed group of people. You get what I'm dealing with? So the things that you're doing, I think, are amazing.
Brother,
I always have.
Brother, let me say this to you. Honesty is where I have to always begin a footstep. Even though sometimes in my travel, I'm a human like everybody else, and I will catch myself speaking an untruth. And where I catch myself doing that, it hurts. So I have to, reschedule and reorder myself every day, because directly I know that truth, it goes far and wide. Okay? And when you tell an untruth, it burns me. It burns. It burns. I prefer to get a slap in the face because I told the truth than a friendship based on a lie. Okay?
100%.
When organizing the group that work with young men, I find that if I was to say there is alcohol and there's plenty of gal and with little clothes on and party out the door, I would have an abundance of men.
But that's called a shoe beans.
Some would say it sounds cool.
I'm loving that. Men's group, shoe beans. When there's truth in that.
But you see, what I get few young men who come, but those who come are proactive.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm dealing with. Because you can't have everybody come because it's going to be disruptive. And you know how the system stays already? They will put an infiltrator in there to cause confusion.
Absolutely.
So I don't look at numbers. I look at what people, bring and what people take and what they do. And so far we've been blessed that on the first instant, when the first young man came, he came with his negative vibe, and he was full of pain and misery. But by the time he got there, he had vision. And he promoted and he continued to promote what we do.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, on a level, because it's interesting. I got a few businesses I'm running at the moment. And the one that's taking the most of my energy because I'm so determined to get it off the ground is the mentoring business, because of what you just said.
Okay.
We know this from a long time. When I was young, I didn't really understand it. And people used to say to me, yeah, many are called but chosen, a few of them kind of talk. And how you going to swing it? There's certain things that if you know that you have this drive to help people, the problem was always in the past, there was like, if you had a drive to help people, then everybody would try and tell you, say, yeah, you should be giving that away for free. And then you're helping people, but you're on the road with your batty out of doors, jamming patty out of dustbin, and that don't make no sense. So
the same people say you couldn't do better than that.
Right. So there's a little trick people to run on us. So, I put my hand up. It took me 30 years to get my head around that. now I have a better understanding, but but what I'm understanding, like you said, is definitely quality over quantity, and the power of assisting somebody to move in the right direction of their life has got to be better than anything else.
Yes, but it is not as always easy as you say, because first and foremost, the person needs to want to make a change.
Yes.
And the way the system have people, why would you do that? I take you back to the film called The Matrix. Called having the red or the blue pill.
Yeah. And
the red one allows you to see everything as it is, and the blue one keeps you sweet.
You reminded me to take my blue pill.
No, there you go. There you go.
But now no talk.
So that is the reality.
Yes, and and dealing with things they really are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see, this is, you know, I mean, there's so many directions to go in with this. I'm trying to keep it reined in, because that immediately tells me, you know, or the first thought in my mind is mental health.
Yes.
Because I think when people taking that blue pill, they're taking that, you know, suppressant, but they're not getting what it promises them.
Well, put it this way. Hence why you have things like Alzheimer's is rising. There's a reason for everything, brother.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, when you have free education and free thinkers, as to the state, that's problems. Okay? When people take the pill, it quells their thoughts, and then you feed them foolishness every day on the television, every day in the music, every day on the phone, every day on the internet. You feed foolishness. People only they gravitate to what is comfortable. What is not something which is going to allow them to question and to think. Okay? And you will see this over the period of time. It's becoming harder and harder to hear somebody speaking against the grain.
Yeah.
They automatically call you a radical, automatically call you subversive, automatically telling you, oh, you're against the state. So expect no different, brother.
No, I hear that. But it's such an interesting thing that there's so much talk now around mental health issues, and the way you expressed it, I was just thinking, you know, it's a real thing that everyone is taking this suppressant and they're buying into all this foolishness because it's meant to make them happy. Like the movies we were talking about, a good example of that, is we said Demolition Man and Minority Report. But I was thinking of, what's the Schwarzenegger one?
Terminator.
No, Total Recall.
Total Recall.
Another example of the same future. Say again?
Or the Will Smith, Enemy of the State.
Yes. But I remember the Total Recall was the one where they're watching this program and it's part of the numbing process. And it's so funny that we had these movies 10, 15, 20 years ago constantly telling us that we were going to get numbed and dumbed down by television, where we would have these programs that, you know, we're so focused on this program and this foolishness, and that we believe everything the state is telling us. And then fast forward 20 years, and it's Love Island, and I don't know them called ba. And we're so engrossed in that a little bit of news that trickle through, it's is that right? And we don't do no research, and we don't test nothing. We don't look for nothing. We don't double check nothing.
Brother, come on. Let's look at the growth and development of the mind. This world has gone through many things, and we've got education program, which is his story. That tells you about the victor, not the victim, the victim. And each one, the victor, looks and sounds and is compelling in their way.
Yeah.
However, when they talk about creation, that victim, so-called victim, looks a different way and has different sound. But everything that's done to that victim, and you look at the setup of mankind in the sense of anything which is organic, only come from those places. Anything that we want to maintain health, strength, positivity, we go right back to the beginning. And we're there in tune. Everything for the so-called victor is always being changed, always being tweaked, always being done to say, I have created. What have you created? And that is the question. Created what? You've been able to sustain life by a means of a chemical, which I give thanks and praises for. Don't get me wrong. However, life can be sustained through following basic laws, okay, which was there before we. Yeah?
Yes.
Now, we go back through this TV, this society, and the mind, we know that in the history of time, there were great wars fought. Great wars all around the world. But then we have to ask ourselves the question: psychology, philosophy, anthropology, all these things were used against the Father creation. So when we're talking about mental health, before you can actually deal with the mind, you need to know what kind of health people had. And then you use science to start break that down and to know. And then you use those who have the other side of the science of the mind to invent, to break down. While at the same time they pretend to build you up, to keep you alive. It's ingenious.
That much it is.
But it's, as they say, it's a two sides to one coin.
Yeah. Well, no, it's to quote someone very famous said, say again?
And the same coin.
Yeah. No, exactly. Because like you said, and the quote, I remember when someone got in a lot of hot water, they said, I said he was great, I never said he was good. And you're right, there's no doubt in the ingeniousness. But you can be ingeniously wicked and detrimental in the same way you can be ingeniously good and beneficent.
Yes.
No, that's making that's really deep. That's making perfect sense.
You know? Because if you look and you say to yourself, we've been fighting for many years to stay healthy. But we're only talking about the body. They've been spending billions to make us sick. But not only the food that we put in the body, but the mind.
Absolutely.
Then they introduce something to tell you, if you take this shot every year, you can stop something from getting you. How does that work? How are you going to put a new bacteria inside me every year to prevent something that hasn't come yet? Who's making the one that is to come?
Yeah, boy, that's Logan's Run, though, isn't it? While we're talking sci-fi movies, that's Logan's Run, man. What did Jimmy Carter call them? By the year, I can't remember when they quoted it, by the year so and so and so, we'll have so many useless eaters. And the one that blows my mind, you know, is, and I'm sure, and if I'm wrong, then yeah, I apologize, but I'm sure it's David Attenborough. I've seen on TV umpteen times talking about overpopulation on this planet.
Well, that's funny you should say that, because I never understand how a planet can be overpopulated, where people own parts of the land, because we're all free. How much land you want? How much one land you want? If everybody was to grow something to eat, how can we starve? Yeah.
And if people gave the surplus, but see, people don't grow. You know, people don't grow. Like, you know, you think I will ever forget when you brought your family to my house in South and we had the apple tree and your daughter reprimanded me for all the apples that fell down in the autumn and spoil?
Yeah.
But you're right. But if I was dealing with that properly, how can people starve?
Yeah.
If everyone is dealing with that properly, yeah, okay, you can't go and feed the whole world apples. But if I'm taking my surplus and dealing with it properly rather than binning it because that affects my profit, then how are people going to starve?
But look, I also volunteer. I volunteer on a program called the Cook Up. And that's to feed homeless people and people who have homes, but who are financially embarrassed.
Yeah.
Okay? Or who have mental health, or who need to communicate with others because they are by themselves. We not only give food, but we give clothes and toiletries.
What's the name of that project again, so I get it clearly?
The Cook Up.
Cook Up, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Cook Up. So in that program there, we get food from different supermarkets, different places. They donate. Now it's got to a point where it's strategic. An organization goes and picks up the food and then disseminates it. Now, if you know every year you're having 20 to 30 organizations open to do this, but yet we don't have a problem of homelessness, yet we don't have a problem of people sleeping on the river, the river bank, and the councils and the authorities, if they come across you, they'll take your sleeping bag, your tent, your clothes, all your belongings and bin it, because they don't want you to be there. But we live in a harmonious society. Brother, what world we living in?
You know what? I'm glad you know me and you always been psychic linked, because I remembered you told me that story, you know, and I wanted you to touch on that, because, you know, I've been out off the ends, I've been out of the zone for years now. So the first time you tell me, I can't remember how you described it, but I remember it as if you go down past certain parks or on the Thames early in the morning, you see people coming out of their tent and having a wash and going on the way to work.
In the cold river.
I was like, listen, if it wasn't you telling me that, I'd have just dismissed it as foolishness. Because I can't believe, I understand, you know, because from my background, my generation, homelessness is something that I attribute to people for whatever reason, you know, usually no fault of their own, have nowhere to live. I've been there myself. I've had people help me out with charity and give me somewhere to put my head down until I can get myself together. But you know, that normally associates me with not having any work. But when you tell me that people are working 5 days a week but sleeping in tents because they can't afford nowhere to live, you just totally switch my view of what's going on in the UK, because I'm hardly ever there.
Listen, my brother, a lot of people are going to say, oh, these are Eastern Europeans, you know, who are currently sleeping out there. That is not true. I know service people who come back from fighting war. I know people who used to have council flat, who used to have house in Hampstead, house in Highgate, house in Richmond, house all over the place, have nothing, okay, for one reason or another, and sleeping out there. I have slept outside. I have slept outside while carrying shopping bags with food in there. I have gone to a park and tried to sleep on a bench, and the early morning dew is wet, so you're cold and you're wet. Your shoes have hole in the leather. You walk up and down the street. You can't even ride the night bus anymore. They'll kick you off if you don't have an oyster. You can't go to the subway and sleep in the subway because you need an oyster. At the bus stations, a lot of bus stations now don't have benches. So you can't sit down or you can't sleep. Okay?
Wow.
When you're dealing with a society who's manipulating what people can and cannot do, then at the same time tell you that they are all giving, all wonderful, and you have a political time now which the people are voting for what is to take place, but yet still they're in denial. There's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
There is a lot.
You know what, this is what it is, because, brother, like I said, you know, I obviously have levels, but humanity, I suppose, is my starting level. Not like I always tell people that, not like I don't like animal, you know. It's just that I'm a human, so I will try and deal with them first. And I don't understand how you're protesting to stop sheep getting herded in truck when the sheep are uncomfortable, but human beings are sleeping on road and can't eat and dying. You understand? Here or anywhere else.
But you said one fantastic thing. People will demonstrate about sheep, but people are still being herded like cattle across the globe to one country or another, and people are making money from it. Where is the love for humanity?
Right.
That all comes by war and greed. Okay? But we know when there's war, money's being made.
Of course.
You know? But a lot of people don't want to overstand that. A lot of people don't want to, as long as they have a place to rest their head, I'm all right, Jack.
Mm.
You know? As long as they can pull up with the latest wares, I'm fine. You know?
Mm-hmm.
But I truly feel that a level of mental health is at a dangerous level out here. A dangerous level. And it's being allowed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people invest in shopping online, don't want to communicate with others, have people phobia, but at the same time, they come and they run into their house. When they see a brown envelope come through the door, they panic. They panic because brown envelope means it is official.
Yeah, that's some government theory, something.
Yeah. And they don't open the packet.
Mm.
So they allow them to stack up. But at the same time, I also equate that to people who hoard.
Yeah.
They always want things. In their mind, they have a use for the thing in which they're bringing back, but it just piles up. And then to release it, to let it go, is a problem.
Yeah.
It's the same problem to open the packet to see what's inside.
Well, it's avoidance, isn't it? Like you said, the hoarding is because when you don't have nothing and you know you don't have nothing, you feel good. I have this problem as well. You feel good to buy things. You get that kick. It's an endorphin kick because now I know that I ain't got the things I want, but I can get this. And even though you don't need it, to give away something that you don't need, it feels like a loss. Because you lose so much of in your life. You have so many hopes and aspirations and dreams and things you try and things people tell you can't do and doors that get shut in your face and obstacles that you can't overcome, that even to lose that shirt that you know you don't wear, it's a painful loss because you lose all the time. So you buy things you don't need because it's a win, it's a kick, I can get this. All the things I can't get, this I can get. You don't want to give the same thing you don't need away because I don't want to take another loss I lose too often. And I hear what you're saying. That from that side of the psychology, I understand very much because I try and rein that in. But like you said about the truth, and I'm a big believer in telling myself the truth. So I told myself the truth, and I saw myself doing it. Took a while. I had to analyze, why are you buying something every week you don't need, and why is the loft full up of things that you don't use? Mm-hmm. And I asked myself the question, like, no, actually, Felix, I want to know. so go away and come back and tell me. I want to know. And I start to open it. I've seen it in other people as well. But like you said, it's all part of the distraction because as long as we can buy something, we're not really thinking about the things that we can't buy, like land. Because we can buy a gadget and shoes.
There you go.
And then they can move us all around and fling us on road because we don't own no property. But while I should have been thinking about owning some security and some property, I can buy Baleargos and I can buy iPhone 11 because they put that on contract. And but for real, because this is what blows my mind. Like, I'm over here in Spain, so I hear it secondhand when people come tell me about, people are talking about, immigrants took my job, but they got a 50 square inch flat screen on the wall talking about immigrants getting payouts.
Stop right there. Stop right there. You see, for me, you have to go back to where that information, that slogan, that thinking, where does it come from? And then when the person comes to tell you that, you have to think back to where was that relevant 3.5 years ago? Where was it? Here, right here in London, England. Where they tell you, say, immigrants come and take my job. And you say to yourself, hold on, wasn't that the same speech they had in the 50s? Wasn't that the same speech they had back in Queen Victoria's time? Wasn't that the same speech that they were talking about every time there's an economic downturn or someone else who looks different has more than someone else? We can't allow that. But then you have to ask yourself, why did this happen? You see, when I'm doing the work that I do, I always have to raise this question. When are we most vulnerable? And the conclusion is when we're comfortable. Okay?
Yeah.
Because that's the time when all your behaviors, all your evil doings come out. Okay? You take the eye off the ball and you allow everything to come. You're comfortable. Okay? You're comfortable. So how can you stop one man or people coming in to make their life better? They forget in this country that in the 80s, when work was really bad, they had to go to Germany, Dubai, all around the world to find work. Hence why they made the program of Wiedersehen Pet.
Yeah.
Yeah? And they forget that people move. But it had nothing to do directly with the people who were hiring. It was due to the economic situation at the time and the standard of living. So, unless you're not prepared to take a cut, then what's going to happen? Somebody else will come and do it for less. You're on that system now. Your governments are operating on that system whereby I can get it done cheaper.
Yeah.
You don't complain when you go into Primark, Lidl, or Aldi to get your food cheaper. Yeah, you don't complain.
No doubt.
Yeah, and you don't complain when Monsanto make fruit and veg for you, which is cheaper. You know, even though you notice that the taste and the shelf life is longer, you don't question hold on, is this good for me? No, it's cheaper.
Well, you know me, my brother, because I've had this conversation, and it's funny for people because my economic activities now are of a capitalist. I run businesses. I always say to people, you know, which I know would freak them out, I don't come from that background. So if we're going to play, you know, I understand, me and you have got a much deeper understanding and a level, but if we're going to play terminology that other people will understand, I would tell them, so yes, my background when I was very young, 13, 14, I was defined a revolutionary communist, a socialist. And I say to people all the time, if you say you want a system that is based on capitalism, don't turn around and get mad when the system does what it's trained to do, which is to make profits.
Yes.
This is the system you voted for. I remind people this all the time. You voted for this system. No one stopped you from voting for a different system or a different runnings, or up in sticks and going to a next country where the system is laid out differently. Give thanks, I just came back from Cuba. Cuba has a lot of problems. But one thing Castro said was, louder, capitalism ain't running in my country for good or for bad. We're having a different system. So it's not like it's impossible. It's a choice. It's a political, economic choice. Now, there's complications, but that's the bottom line. But like you said, so the thing is, like when people are, because I always have this conversation with people say, oh, when they come over here, they work for cheaper. As I always tell people, quote unquote, repeating you in a way, my brother, no immigrant comes here, takes a gun, puts it to the boss's head and says, give me that man's job, I'll work for cheaper. Give me his job and pay me less than him or I kill you. That don't happen. The boss says, you're twice as qualified and half the price because it's you're living in a yard over there. Jerry, I know your kids, I know your dad, you're not your job. Because I'm here to make more profit and pay my shareholders. That's the system you vote for. That's what it's about. So what are you complaining about?
But bigger than that.
Then look at another system, innit?
Yes, but bigger than that. You see, this government here, 2009, 2010, it decided that local government needed to be made smaller. Okay? But it's always good to understand who are the people who are telling you that local government needs to be smaller. So they sent a man in to a borough, paid him $1.5 million. $1.5 million to reduce the size of the borough's output and workforce.
That's the job I used to do. So I understand you. Yeah.
So now that has been completed, people start to wonder, hold on, how and why did this happen? When it was in its infancy, the managers were fine for losing the subordinates until it came for them.
Of course.
Okay? While marching and demonstrating, I was blessed that while demonstrating, walking up the road, I just envisaged the shops. Which one of them will be still there in 5 years? Why? What was the reason why they were doing this? How is this going to benefit the area? As the council, the local government, employed a lot from the local area.
Right.
So the money was feeding back in the system.
Yeah.
Okay? So it was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
When the mission was accomplished, you started to see problems on top of problems on top of problems not being addressed. And then the hiring of new people just from university, people who's green.
Yeah.
Now, children, working with children and adults. Some of them have no understanding of the role of a parent in circumstances. Some of them are the same age as the children they're supposed to be working for, speaking the same language and have the same behavior. Do you expect that to be quelled or to be exacerbated? And then they sit there and scratch their head. Why is it not working?
You see?
See, it goes straight back to they came and took my job. Yes? You see, it's like going back again into the 90s, early 90s, before they built the Olympic Stadium. Everybody made a claim that this is going to be beautiful for the country. But they had already done the equation knowing that British workers would cost too much.
Yeah.
They had a budget. What they did, they went abroad and brought people from abroad to come and do the electrics, which was going to cost them the most work, and the building.
Viva capitalism.
At the same time, they said British jobs for British workers. You could count on your hand the number of people from that local area who got work.
Right.
A lot of the local people got work after the place was built.
Yeah. You can be a steward.
The people who built the places, no one equated that they need to live somewhere. You know? They would make do wherever they lie down. So it's no different from back in the 50s and so. People wanted people to come and to build a place. But they didn't see them as people. They saw them as numbers.
That's right.
You know? Eventually people they've got a stake here. They made a stake. They've contributed. You're going to deny them the contribution?
Well, you see, it's amazing. So, Karen.
And still blame them for the problem? Yeah? Come on.
Well, no, for me, bro, it's amazing the way history repeats itself. Like, you know, we had this conversation about migration before, and my pet hate, you know, I try not to get angry anymore because I understand that sickness only lives in me. But I would be amazed at the descendants of Caribbean immigrants who would tell me about too much Polish and Romanian man over here taking our jobs.
I get the same.
I thought, brother, I equate that, and I don't want to talk light of serious things, so I know I'm making light of it, but I equate it almost to a mental illness. If you can't see that, it's not even funny, and if you can't see, I mean, genuinely what's wrong with that and believe in that, I think on some level, you have I mean, there's a real problem at the root of your ability to be able to do that.
But hold on. I would suggest to you there's a transformation that has taken place. And there's a song that says, you may be born here, but you don't own here.
Mm.
And you must remember where you come from. Because in a time of hatred, people are going to remind you that you are different and you're not from here.
That's right.
Even though you're born here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? However, I always say to them, if they go back, or they don't have to go back too far. If they go to their lovely friend Google and look up Ipswich man, okay, they will find out who the early settlers here was.
Yes.
So who are you calling a foreigner?
Exactly.
But then I just say to them, listen, we are people of the globe, all of us.
There you go.
We are all humans.
That's
and as humans, we will travel. The word was Pangea.
right.
Pangea.
One terror.
Yes. And my beautiful daughter taught me, Tadman Mundus, people of the word.
I love that word. Give me that one word again.
Tadman Mundus.
Beautiful. Beautiful. But no, that's why I said it used to frustrate me. And, you know, it's amazing, as I said, how short people's memories are. Because, you know, I find it hard to believe the, you know, victimization and the racism that Romanians and Polish and I got to know a few people that I've been at the UK for over 13 years. Do you know what I mean? So it was amazing to me that when I was leaving, one of the things I always loved about London in particular was its multiculturalness. And the last few years I was in London, that's when there was a lot of Polish and Romanians that are coming through. I get to know a couple of them, work with a couple of them, everything's cool. Then a couple of years I leave after people telling me about, these people over here taking our jobs, or Muslims, this, that. And my thing is, you know me, because I'm very dedicated and very genuine with my friends. So a lot of people really don't understand. When you're telling me Muslim, Polish, blah, 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 Romanian, blah, 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 I'm thinking of my brethren. I'm thinking of my sister, and I'm taking offense. You know, I'm taking offense. I'm like, you know what? If I was with my brethren and you was telling me Muslims are I want to punch you in your face. I don't care who you are, because you don't even people like that. Or you was telling me that I'm a Polish friend, and that's how I take it. So I don't have no level of understanding of that for people who, as you clearly pointed out, and history will dictate, and they remind us when they want to put it on the BBC, whose parents came to this country and were welcomed with no blacks, no Irish, no dogs.
Yeah.
And we used to go in and work, you know, because we were the weakest position in the workforce. And, you know, there was a strike going on with the union. They would call us blackleg. But now we're talking about who's working too cheap and taking people's jobs. Like, I'm not even polite. You need a slap. I'm not polite person to deal with you.
Yeah, but you know, I always look at it and say, well, people just don't know history. They don't know. They don't want to know. Okay? And when they talk about the Muslims and they say about terrorists, I look and I smile. I smile hard. And I say to them, you know, I feel sorry for the Muslim. Because the Muslim over history has always had a bad picture, always. But, you know, the Muslim coming to UK has only had not even a quarter of what we have faced because of faith or of color. And I said, and look, right now, you don't even know the history and how your own input has turned him into what he is today.
Exactly.
Imagine how, if you had to truly equate what has taken place, you can see how efficient your colonialism of the world has been to our minds. Because otherwise, do you think we would take so much from you and still smile? That is how much colonialism of the mind still works with the people. Now, I want to give thanks and praises that we don't deal with violence as violence, okay? And those who actually deal with those level of violence are our young people. And our young people are born here. before time, if you were black, they would say Afro-Caribbean or black kid, and or student, overseas student, as shown on the BBC. But it's not even been 10 years, I don't believe, that they have actually equated on paper anyway, that black people actually come from here and born here. Okay? So when I'm talking about these things, I talk it in the light of, you must understand that this is a part of their own making of this country. Black children who were raised here and got together and understood the norms here and behave as such. When the parents were trying to work and deal with their children and to show them that is not the way, the system showed them that that is the way, and the parents will have no right to tell you no. You have freedom of expression. You have freedom to come and go as you please. You have freedom to do this. But, you know, as we go back and we say, the government will raise your children. It is forbidden. It is done. It is live. You know? But I agree with you when you come to those people who turn around and tell you about the foreigner. I will always ask them, so who are you? Who are you? You know? Where did your parents come from? Oh, they were born here. And I said, your great-grandparents and your great-great, they're from here? You know, and they look at me and they will smile. And I say, yeah, well, you know, really and truly, you can't say they were from here, but you don't know that lineage.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and it's funny. It's a good circle because, as you said, with one of the first group you were telling me about, this I think is now a good example of the disconnect. You see, where I live, it's very blessed, right? One of the first things, one of the reasons we came here was because of the family structure, where on any given day you will see 3 generations, often 4 generations of a family walking down the street. So great-grandchildren know their grandparents.
Yes.
They communicate with them. They have dinner together. On Sunday, you see all of them, they go out to the restaurant and it's a table for 12 and everyone is there. So they have this direct relation and they have this respect. I mean, not just a love, but also a respect and a communication. You said because we never saw it as that, but these were, you know, we moved there for family reasons above anything else. It was what we saw for liberty to raise children and an environment to raise children. And it was like, okay, that's what we're going to do. So as you said, when you I know in my heart, I know some people get nobody who came over here. So again, fam.
Wow.
Listen, if you was to tell somebody who came here and had to walk up and down for 2, 3, 4 hours, 3, 4, 5, 6 days looking for somewhere to live about bloody Polish immigrants as a generation black person, he'd clip around your ear. Because he would have the understanding of what that feels like to come and do a journey and then get treated like that when your only intention is to work hard and do better for your family. So you couldn't sit down there with your spoiled free education, PlayStation, iPhone, Nike trainers ass on claiming whatever you're claiming and telling anybody you're able to do a day's work, but your customer manager is willing to work. But the generations, I hear what you're saying. I don't think they're not in an environment to be able to have this conversation.
It's not the environment, man. They don't have the mentality to have the conversation because they refuse to look. They refuse to see what is true. They refuse to acknowledge. Look, I am in pursuit of trying to secure some work for a young man. And it's labor intensive, and the purpose is to make you understand. Oh, you playing with your volume?
No.
They cut you off halfway through speaking.
That was expected. My hands are down here, so I'm not touching nothing.
Anyway, it was the whole purpose of getting the labor intensive job is so when they're ready to make a decision about their future, they know the labor intensive, or they're focusing on academia and using their talent to move forward. But I would always insist that the individuals have a combination of trades so they can go to and fro. When in education, you can do that to supplement money, you know? So you're never without the opportunity, the opportunity to work. But it's to have that mindset in the first place. It is the problem.
No, I feel you. Absolutely. So, I mean, because I want to get back to the group. So, within the first group, how are you addressing that? Like, you know, to get the different generations, you said different generations, the race and religions in an environment where they can, you know, have this this dialogue and this conversation.
Okay. The first group that we had was 4 of us. In the first group. In the second group, there should have been 8. There's only 2.
Okay.
However, from the 2 comes plenty. Slowly comes plenty.
Yeah, man.
You don't knock it.
You said quality, not quantity. See, I overstand that. Because you can have 200 people in there just to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
And show their face, and half of them just there to knock down everything. And the people who want to get the help can't even open their mouth and talk because everyone else is there posing and pretending. So it's better you have less people there and people who can actually do talk and get a benefit than only for people just there to pose and take Instagram. Yeah, I'm at my men's group today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I know plenty of people like that. I know plenty.
Everything for show, innit? Everything's for show.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm not in for that. I just like to just go ahead, do what I need to do, and that's it. You know.
What are you finding with the first group? The conversations, you know, that are coming out. With regards to first, for example, I mean, because I know that I always wonder with this one, and I think it may be changing, but with regards to talking the truth with people of different races, do you find a difficulty with that?
No.
Okay.
No. You see, the key thing is this. The truth lies within oneself. Okay? And that's always subject to change, as in your understanding or your education of things. But you can't change the reality of what you've experienced.
Yeah.
It's the interpretation may change, but the experience not. Yeah? So no, it is not a problem. It is not a problem.
Okay, that's interesting, because I always, as you well know, I used to always have an interesting relationship with that, because what happens is, I suppose, I think you've hit something on the head in expressing your truth. If your truth has been at the hands of someone else, that you have to be talking to a very advanced mentality to accept that.
Well, put it this way. I find it not so advanced. It's just a willing to overstand and challenge oneself. Because as I normally say, look, if I go out on the street today and I'm robbed or beaten by someone who looks like me, then what do I do? Do I then hate the whole of the people who look like me? Or do I understand that individual?
Yeah. Exactly. No, for real. But this is I always get it from the same vibe of like, okay, then say if someone with my family was to go and rob and beat you, and you come and tell me that, the joke is, and I say it's a joke because I think anybody truly in touch with honesty would say, that's my family member, but they did wrong. And it's because they did wrong to you. And what we should do is try and find some way to make amends.
Yes.
Like on a political, geopolitical level, on a race level, on a nationality level, and level, people are more likely to go, don't say nothing about my family, I don't care what they did, and let's not talk about that, I'm going to hide them and protect them. And who is you, and who cares about what wrong was done to you? And that's the problem we're dealing with.
Yeah, until it turns around and that same person deals with them. And then all of a sudden, it's how can I deal with this? That becomes the question. What should I do? And then when you now tell them, well, we all need to sit down and talk about this, they tell you they don't have no time for talking. They just want action.
But when you needed some action, they didn't want to talk.
All right.
Yeah. Well, this is what you see. This was me a few years ago, because I remember Occupy Wall Street. And like I said, I was on a different thing, and I was just like, "You're late." I was just, "Don't call me and tell me about you're late." I was just trying to tell you that thing. They're like, all them things, whatever's coming out of your mouth, man was trying to tell you that 10, 15 years ago. But you, as you said, but you were comfortable.
Yes.
So you didn't care. And when you got uncomfortable because the recession came and knocked you and took away your little hedge fund and your savings and your pension and your status, all of a sudden you want to camp out on Wall Street, talk about what the bankers did to you. Like when I tell you what the bankers doing to other people 15 years ago, you never cared. So I was like, don't come tell me that. You're late. I'm gone, moved on. That's already part of my reality. You're not showing me nothing. And you being out of road, that's not, we did that. You know what I mean? We've been on the road. You're late.
I would say to you, we still have to take time with those people, because I will go back to, do you remember the poll tax riot? All those people there who invested in the poll tax riot, I salute them. They were already on the margins of society. Okay? So the only thing they could lose, which is important, was their liberty. And a lot of them were prepared to lose that. And what did people gain from that? Was a fairish poll tax, one that was reevaluated.
Yeah, they had to listen. They got the ear, which was an almost impossible thing with that particular government. They got the government to stop and listen.
Yeah.
And they hadn't listened to anybody else for almost a 10-year period, no matter who you was.
But then at the same time, what the media did is try to categorize them and put them as cartoon characters, as undesirables, unsavory people,
right?
A wash and a job. Not to say that they had a level of morality and an understanding of justice.
And again, see, I agree with you, but I felt with them again. It was like, you're late, but I allow you because we'd spent 5-10 years of that already. And we were trying to explain that. People are going, no, that can't be true. You must be that way. And, you look this way and da-da-da. But then when it was Mr. Middle Class, Winthrop from blah, 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 all of a sudden it's like, how can they use that picture? How can they take up that information? That's a damn lie. Well, yeah, if it's a damn lie for you, it's probably a damn lie for them, but you wasn't listening back then, was you?
But they still haven't done that level of equation, because they still have the image in their head as something which is unjust, something not to be trusted. That's how deep the psyche runs.
But it does. It amazes me from the perspective of people who, exactly what you just said, can't understand what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I'll be honest with you, bro, this is why I get so mad, I think, about that migration thing I spoke about. Because although you should know better, whoever you are as a human being, I actually get it if you have no experience of something. I understand that level of ignorance, even though, in this world, you should make yourself more aware of what goes on in this world. I know for sure that I'm not so aware of what it's like to be gay in Uzbekistan.
Right.
Or, you understand? Or you know what I mean? Or say, wherever the situation is. So you can't be aware of everything. But as I said, when certain people, when it's right in front of your nose, as I said, I think we as human beings have a duty to do some kinds of investigation before we pass our judgment, because the judgments we make affect not only the people involved in it, but they affect our world. And as you said, and my favorite quote, I'll say quickly, fam, because I always get it wrong, but I know you know it. It's the quote from the German author around the time of, Nazism. And it says something along the lines of, when they came for the gypsies, I never said nothing. When they came for the blacks, never said nothing. When they came for the Jews, never said nothing. And there was no one there to say nothing when they came for me. To me, that is like, you know, even if it's just on a self-interest level, the most profound quote, that if you're not paying attention to if the people around you are being treated unjustly, not only are you immoral, but you're an idiot. Because at some point, that injustice has a huge potential to come looking for you, and you never stood up for anybody else. You're actually detrimental to your own safety and security. And well, I know you know that I don't get that, but it's been 20 or 30 years, brother, and I still don't get it.
Well, let me say this to you. At the time when those things were happening, up until, I would say, 1979, those mantras were quite regular, you know. When 1983, 84, 85, and 89 came, there was like a little resurgence. Then in the 90s, there was a resurgence again. And
yes,
I would say from 2004 to 2008, that resurgence stopped.
Yes.
Those mantras stopped. And all this propaganda, all this greed, all this materialism took a whole hold upon people. And people stopped looking out until there was the boats coming across from war-torn areas and people trying to migrate from economical areas which had gone through a downturn through greed in the West. And then when you got politicians calling people cockroaches, that mirror now faced one way. There was no reflection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I'm so sad in the world I'm living in.
Yeah.
No, because I'm not going to lie, I didn't see the world being this regressive, and I suppose, you know, everything's a lesson, and I suppose I'm really just understanding the folly of my optimism. And what makes me laugh is that, don't get me wrong, I had no optimism on the level of we fought them battles and that was sorted. I had an optimism on, with the amount of information available, right-minded people would adjust to a medium which was a lot more caring and socially outlooking. Because like I said, because in all honesty, I know it actually is, if you're selfish, it's the best solution. It's the best solution for your own self, you know, preservation and your own self, you know, for your own benefit. And I know that people don't get it and they talk something else, but then that's what I was thinking. But then with all this information, maybe people will start to get that. I'm not asking you to be, you know, hippie love and light because love and light is good and you're a wonderful person. I'm saying to you that, you know, like my story, when I was in South Africa and we stayed with a guy, we was in Durban and he had like, you know, whatever, 500 square meter mansion in the middle of a shanty town. And I kept on thinking, he was smart, like any, like, you know, them, like all the drug dealers, them, you know, he would give food to all the people in the shanty town. Because he was aware that it only took one day for them to wake up and go, hold on a minute, this man's in there with 6, 7 European cars, where the food, jewelry, rare, and there's 2,000 of us on his doorstep. It's common sense, it's self-preservation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But apparently not. Apparently self-preservation is actually no. Just crush them more. Apparently so.
The further we go down into this conversation, it reminds me, you know, that in society, there is still a lot of good people. In society, I know when the time for giving comes, people will still dig in their pockets and give what little they have to others, okay? And most probably, they're psychologically fixed to do that at those times of year, okay? Because usually there's a human tragedy in which they can connect with. However, I look at it and it hurts me sometimes because I look about the time which is approaching, and you know, and that so-called season of giving and such.
Mm.
And people, yeah, they think about the homeless and those who are left on alone, and so, which is good. It's good that the mind is based on those things. But I just ask that people could actually focus on these things every day, not just at that time.
There you go.
Every day.
There you go.
The more and more that we think of these things, these basic things, the closer we can come and get things right within this world that we do. Because as I say, there are some beautiful, beautiful people. You know, some of these are the same people who will turn around and tell you they don't want you in their country. These are some of the same people, but they are the same people who will dip their hand in their pocket and give. You know?
I understand.
And I just say, well, listen, if a moment of love and, you know, people can open their arms and actually just embrace each other for what we truly are, human people, human beings, with true love and light within. This place is a beautiful place, you know, and no system truly can break that. Even though AI is coming, and it can't deal with that.
Listen, the future is terrifying, bro. Now, the only comfort I have is I know that my children and your children are built for the future. You know, like they're built for this. They're built for their challenge. So that's my only comfort, because me, I'm not innate. I'm telling you now, I worked in IT, I can deal with it. And because I can do that, I look at it and I'm like, this has to be your generation. You grow up on this level of run-ins, when you're soon they're gonna have the little Google glasses where rather than me, I'm looking at a screen, that's bad enough. Rather than looking at the wall on the walking road, they're gonna be walking down there with sat nav in the corner, messages, texting, passing, and that's all gonna be in their glasses, boof bath one time, study book here, text messages there, voice notes there, Google right there, and they're gonna be walking like on a Minority Report thing. That's where this is going. You understand? They got chip. They're going to be integrated into their hands, so they don't have the discomfort of having to swipe their card or their Apple phone. It'll just be a wrist. You understand? The government going to know every single move they make, and then they're going to tell them, well, if you're not a criminal, it shouldn't matter. Well, suppose I'm not a criminal, but you, the government, are a criminal. It might matter. But the enemy of the state is going to look like some outdated run-ins, because you might for a shoe when they got the chip in your wrist.
Well, it will look like Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny.
I'm not built for it, man. So I'm glad that I know in my heart, I feel that the generation, they're built for this, so they will be able to traverse it and deal with it, bro. Because no, that's a mad thing. But I will say one thing on what you just said. Sorry, because you just put me on that side. One thing I noticed, right? I wanted to know what your opinion on this is. What you said is so true, and I've experienced it. I find a lot of people, it's almost like how people are brave when they're on the internet, on Facebook, and they will cuss ass and tell people about themselves and do all kind of things they would never do to someone's face. And I find a lot of people are personally on a one-to-one like this. If they see somebody suffering, their heart comes out and they will go to help. But what would surprise me is, but then politically, they would give the money for the person who come off, migration boat, whatever, starving, but then go and vote for a political party that will make them drown in the sea.
Yeah.
So there's a real level of, out of sight, out of mind, I find, with people's politics. And I'll tell you what I discovered is the most. With my work, I work with a lot of people who are buying property. They tend to be, more than so right-wing, and they tend to be, support certain parties, whether it's Brexit, Donald Trump, blah, 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 blah. And it's amazing, like I can talk to people, and on a one-to-one level, they will tell me the personal contributions they do to help individuals or situations or blah, 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 blah. But then they will take their politics and put their politics in a place that create those situations in the first place. And I never get why they don't see that disconnect.
Well, one they may not see themselves as being in that position of problems. Their affinity is with the politics until they fall short. then all of a sudden it's like a rude awakening. That you lied to me, but then at the same time, it's like what they're going through here is those who voted for certain political parties are now waking up to the fact that they were lied to. But then instead of actually admitting that they've been lied to, they will convince themselves that there's another political agenda which is stopping them from doing something that they couldn't do. But in fact, they could do all along, but they chose not to do it because they thought they couldn't do it because they believed somebody who lied to them. You know? And it's when you hear it and see it, you have to ask yourself, why do you do these things to yourself? Why? But then at the same time, you know, they say love conquers all. And when that happens, they have to go through a level of denial which hurts. And what they end up doing is running. They run away from it. You know? And then when the child comes, they're either thinking of leaving or changing their whole perspective.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately reality.
No, I feel you, bro. This is why when we talk about the mental health, I see so many ways for this disconnect to happen. Because as you said, if you're in a circumstance, and like right back to what you said at the start, because you always make yourself clear, you have that comfort. It's a very short trip from disconnect to that comfort to not being able to deal with comfort has gone and being the person you used to help, or even worse, the person you used to despise. You know, and I can appreciate, you know, I mean, in fact, some ways, and I don't want to say it's, I don't like that mentality, but I've always known sometimes when times are hard, I can always go, listen, I come from Brock. I mean, one of my biggest survival mechanisms is big boy, forget what I lost. I come from Brock. Yeah, so you can keep bringing that at me, bro, because that's bread rabbit, isn't it? Yeah, they're gonna put me in the prickly bush. Oh no!
But that's why the mentality of the young people is of such, because a lot of them come from having nothing, and then you see where they've molded the saying. You live or you die trying. Yeah? But then I have to ask them, why do you want to die? And trying for what? And then all of a sudden, to make money in it. Well, no one's stopping you from making money. How you make the money? Yeah? How you go about making the money? That's the only thing. You can do it the short way or the quick way. Yeah? But guaranteed, you're gonna die. So it's only you choosing how quick you die.
Yeah, no, that's very deep, you know. That's really deep. And I mean, I have to ask, man, because I've had a few rants about this on this podcast myself, a few, about the UK knife crime thing. So I kind of tend to ask everybody, but particularly people who are in a situation where their information is knowledgeable, not just like me, because like I said, I'm out of the UK. So I'm just going with my own experiences. But I mean, you know, so without me leading you, you know, what would be what you want to say about the situation with regards to UK knife crime at the moment?
As I said in the beginning, colonialism of the mind, self-hate, okay? It's a big thing. So imagine you've been raised with something where you're in poverty, in a level of poverty that you recognize is poverty. Not understanding that you can break out of this poverty by switching on this. Yes?
Yeah.
Then at the same time, you listen to music that talks nothing more than violence. And at the same time, you've been had by frequencies. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, if you listen to the frequencies that have been taking place right now, everything is on a low frequency, even down to the monotone of the voice. is putting you psychologically in that downtrodden state of mind. So when you go out there and you see someone who sounds like you, looks like you, is defending nothing like you just see it as an obstacle. And you have no other recourse but to get that out of the way. However, when a person doesn't look like you, you start to think before you act. Yeah?
Yeah.
But now, society has gone such a way because they have society has negated the responsibility of the generation who came from 79 to 82. Now you have a mass of the population who reflects that culturally. So the language, the dress, and the behavior are the same.
Yeah.
So regardless if you're a lighter shade, darker shade than me, you're sounding like me, you're dressing like me, you're talking like me, you're an obstacle.
Yeah. It's all urban, isn't it? It's urban.
What does that word mean? What does it stand for?
I've never understood it, bro. No, for real. I get it. It's like, okay, whatever, inner city, da 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 da. It's just that label, isn't it?
I thought, and I have to be honest, as I said, that when that word started to be used, it was to replace the word black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So I understood it for what it was then. Things change, but as I said, they negated the responsibility of those from 79 throughout the 80s, and now you've come up with a whole generation. And if you notice, when people travel and settle or migrate, whatever word you want to use, the first language they pick up is that subcultural language. Yes?
Yeah.
And that is based on not only different levels of ignorance, but it's also based on hatred.
Yeah. But it's funny, there was a program on, I tend to watch the channel 4, 5, whatever. And there's a program called Grime Up North, like the term is Grim Up North.
Okay.
And they had all these grime artists from Blackpool.
Yep.
And we get this, right? Like I said, I still get the diss for rapping in an American accent and all that kind of stuff. So I totally understand assuming the culture that you find exciting and interesting and you want to be a part of. So I wasn't dissing on that level. It was just interesting for me that these guys from Blackpool, I walk around and say, yeah, you get me, bro, I'm in it. Yeah, because nah, because it's them way they're in it. And I'm looking at these guys because they are 100% imitating the way and the speaking, the vernacular of the people, that they're following from London, where the grime scene, London, Birmingham, Manchester, whatever, where the grime blew up. And as you said, I can see what the next thing is going to be part of that.
Yeah.
Is okay, then I want to be all of that.
But it has become, but you see, it has become that, all of that. Because if you're a young person living in the rurals and you want to make a statement, you idolize which is the most popular culture.
Yeah.
And it's that subculture. Now, there was always a time and space for society, government themselves, to quell that. But they chose not to because it wasn't affecting them and theirs. But now that culture has permeated right the way from the working class culture, right the way through to the so-called echelon culture. And what they try to do is imitate it when they're in certain areas. It's just like the politicians would say, well, they have to use that Estrian language, to make themselves feel a people's person. And that's what David Cameron was doing when he came to power. He would use that Estrian language and that persona. Yes? But the key thing is, what they didn't bank on is that the working class, the young people, will pick up this cultural identity and hold on to it so strong. so strong that it's permeated the household, the behavior, the thinking, the whole thing. And now it's the norm. Yes? So when you're talking about knife crime, it's still about hatred of self. And if you notice, when you go to these towns and cities where the so-called culture of the place is somewhat different from a so-called urban culture, the same knife crime will take place on the same basis. You sound, you look like me, gotta get rid of you. Yeah?
That's deep.
So, you know, brother, when they're talking about all this county lines, it hurts me. It hurts because that was taking place in 1979.
Yeah.
Okay? And the way that the police used to actually address these county lines was simple. If it happened outside their jurisdiction, they were not dealing with it. Because they weren't spending time because they couldn't get the collar.
Yeah.
You know? So on the basis of stabbings and so on and so forth, English youths have a reputation around the world now that they, especially in America, that they don't play. You see, everyone else shoots each other, but they can come up and personal.
Yeah.
And stab you.
Yeah. I have to ask you a question because I'm sure. I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I really believe it's you. So here's the thing, right? I tell this story, but you know, we went through a lot of stuff, and a lot of the time I was high. I just, like you said about the honesty, my brother. You understand? I discovered marijuana. I'm not saying it distracted my thinking. In fact, on some levels it was better, but that was a factor. So there's certain things, I'll wait to see if the connection come back. Yeah, there's certain things that I don't remember very well, and I always remember broad strokes. So my question is, because I tell this story all the time, was I with you the time Bernie Grant took us to the Houses of Parliament to have this, whatever it was, lecture discussion where they brought over the guy from America who was talking about gang and gang culture and how it was going to seep into the UK and the ways that parliamentarians could do what they had to do to prevent it happening?
No, I wasn't there that day. I know about it, but I wasn't there that day.
Because I tell you the story, I can't remember anybody. So I'm thinking, did I make this up? Like, was this a lucid dream?
No. Let me say this to you. That took place at Chestnuts, okay? And you went with I believe his name is Michael. I think his name is Michael. You went with him, but then it was in when was it? Let me see. Hold on. Let me go back. 2001. We had a brother from Boston came back over. I was working. I went over to Boston, and I met this guy indirectly. And the following year, he was he came over with his team, dealing with knife crime and gun crime, and was talking to all the managers of the borough. And he exposed the level of racism and underminingness and underhanded behavior that took place as part and parcel of the understanding of how things work.
Wow.
And to show them that without them giving the people who actually work with those communities, in those communities, giving them the respect and the understanding and the budget to do the work they need to do, this will permeate far greater than they'll ever know. And it would reach up on the hill in a quicker time than they will ever envisage. So said, so done. Simple. But they tried to dismiss this man by saying that he was a racist, that he was anti-Semite, that he was so many different things.
The usual stories.
Of course, until he gave his credentials, and then it was that was never said, you know.
Yeah. No. I tell you why, because what you said about the culture was what reminded me of it. Because what I never forget, first is the first and the only time I've been to the House of Parliament, and then which I know, like I said, rest in peace. You know, Bernie Grant did some amazing things, and just little things like that to get from the ends to go to Parliament and present something and be at that position. You know what I mean? To be heard in them in those areas, that was on itself on a level. But the thing I never forget after this guy gave his presentation was whichever parliamentarian was there said, "Thank you for the presentation, very interesting, but we don't think that this is something we need to be concerned about because the UK will never have a problem with gang culture because our cultural base is too different. It's very different from America, and so we will never have a problem with gangs in the UK."
Okay, let me stop you right there.
The man saying that and thinking, all right, and a brother, it wasn't even 10 years later. Forget what's going on now. They had Bloods and Crips in the UK.
But let me stop you.
America.
Let me stop you. You see, I like when you have modern day presenters on television or on the radio speaking about gang culture in this country, and only start from 2000. And I have to remind them about the craze, and I have to remind them about the Cable Street gang. I have to remind them about all the South London gangs and Jimmy Boyle up in Scotland and all the gangs are from Wales and all over the place. Okay,
we ain't started with mods and rockers yet.
No, we haven't got to them yet. And you know, and all of a sudden, there's a gaping chasm with all that history. And I asked them why. Because I have to then remind them that in places where certain communities were not in any great numbers, it was still the norm to be chased out with bicycle chains and hammers, okay? Or to be stabbed, or to your house being set alight, or excrement being pushed through the door, and all these things take place. And I'm sure that you have police records and statements where all these things have been recorded. So how is it that you don't know about gang culture?
For real. And the thing is, this is the one that I always...
You've been...
So, you see? They're trying it. It's all right, man. We're getting good. No, I get a lot of criticism for this, but it's my true belief. So again, with the honesty, I understand. This is why I find the way I spend a lot of time on it, your group's amazing, because I have a belief that men, particularly, are going to fall into groups. You can call them gangs, whatever you is. I think there's a history of reasons why we do that, going back 2,000 years ago, from being chased by pterodactyls and other dinosaurs, form groups as men, and why we have this defense, which is a form of violence. So what I was really a believer of is that men are gangs. And I'll put it in the simplest term. I remember when my son was quite young, maybe 8 or 9. And he said, "Dad, do you think I should join this gang?" It depends what the gang is there to do. And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, if elderly people going into homes and help them like that, or the gang is there to protect young women, then I think that's a good gang. If the gang is there to rob shops and lick that old man and take his wallet and set fire to buildings, then that's not a good gang to be in." But in my mind, men in particular are always going to form into gangs. You know what I mean? And I also think that, it's themselves, because for the same, reasons that have existed for 2,000 years. So it's an interesting thing for me, because you see, when you talk about the groups, whether, I always know that words are just words, but if you have a group of men and they come together to do something positive and explore some intelligence and explore, some inner learning and learn from each other, no one's going to say that you're a gang, but it's a group of men coming together to do something positive. And I think that's what people will, the ones who come together to do something negative, forgetting that there are choices with what we do when we...
Well, you see, I don't know if you can hear me.
I got you, bro.
But they, you know, you were cutting out all the way through that lovely speech. You froze a little. It came in and it came out. So the gist of what you said was, I think, is that yes, men do formulate in gangs. We do, because we are people who need human connection. Hence why the contraptions are being placed in your hand so you can be insular. So therefore you won't bounce ideas of others, even though you will say that I'm using Snapchat, I'm using this, I'm using that platform and that platform. They're all still controlled. Is the human connection that you need, the one-to-one, the physical. Okay? That's what we, you know, that's how we come into the world, physically. Yeah? No Truman Show.
No, that's deep, man. And I think, you know, but that's why I'm trying to say I find your work so interesting, because of what you just said, that as people come together and sit together and explore emotional intelligence and reason with each other, you know, that I see the solution to a lot of problems, because a lot of the time, a lot of it is just talking to somebody. And we all know that sometimes the person closest to you isn't the best person to talk to. Maybe they haven't got the right skill set to listen to you, or maybe they're just the wrong person that you want to talk to. That's why sometimes we meet a stranger and want to tell them all of our problems, because we just want someone to just listen.
There's a level of bias that the person who's closest to you may have, or you have against them. But a stranger is an ideal person because you know not of them. Okay? Right. So they may just do the human thing of just listening. But that listening is a skill in itself, just to listen without commentary.
Real, bro. And this is what I try, and with a man who loves to chat as much as me, that's hard. but at least I overstand that, and I try to put the ego down, because I've always got something to say, because something relates to something, and just hear when people need to talk, because I get that sometimes people just need to talk.
Yes.
And I know that most of the psychologists would tell you, on a level, if you let people just talk, they'll solve their own problems.
Yeah, there you go.
No, brother, it's always, I'm just blessed to have had you on the line for this long, man. I really appreciate it.
No. Listen, this is the greatest time to reason, you know. And just one for you. Listen, where you are right now, and not too far away from you, is a very big issue taking place. Okay? Where self-identity, language, and self-determination as a nation. Fortunately or unfortunately, I see society heading the same way. Yeah? But the biggest problem I see overall is the disconnect amongst people over differences. Okay? And in one of the tracks that were released is where we become the next refugee within the world, on a world stage. I don't think you understand how powerful your lyrics and your understanding of the journey is. I don't think you truly understand. Hence why the constant support you have received in your journey, hence the constant, chaperones that you may have up and down the place. Well, sometimes you may see and sometimes you may not see. Yes?
That's blessed.
And may have spurred you to leave leave England and seek a new port and a new place to plant. But those chaperones are alive and kicking. And never forget that. Never. No,
I hear you. But as I said, it's you know me, my brother. I'm little old me, as we discussed. So I mean, as lines start clicking, things start freezing, faces start reappearing when I've travelled 100 kilometers, I'm still just thinking like, really? Like, you know, the one that we're like, but you must have something better to do. That's all I think to myself. That, but you must have something better to do. For real.
You see, that just shows me really and truly of the power of language, the power of communication.
Word.
You know? The power of communication is serious.
And I feel, Gary,
we may laugh and joke as much as we wish, but no one's going to spend time on foolishness.
Yeah, no, brother, I hear you, man. I hear you. And as I said, it's been a journey recently because, well, this has been a blessed conversation because the reminder of the power of humanity that comes from people has been very good for me because the last few years I've been in the cut observing, and like most people, I ain't been very impressed and heartened by what I've seen. So my faith in human nature has been very low. And like I said, that's the one that I was so confused about when I'm coming across the people who are on the one hand so giving, but then on the other hand with what they do with their, you know what I mean, for want of a better word, their political view pretty much creates the problems that they're giving. And to be honest with you, bro, that was actually always the point. I never got that. I suppose I've just become more up close and personal with it, with like, more people. And it really confuses me. But, I'm grateful. I wouldn't say only halfway through, but, it hasn't ended yet. Because you and I know. But we was never convinced we'd be having this conversation saying that.
Father, see and know. Yeah, well, you're being dubbed out if we are allowed.
Well, see, now they start choppy. All I heard is if we are allowed. So whatever you just said there, that message wasn't meant to reach.
No,
now they are.
But the key thing is, I've never seen you being speeded up so fast.
And you know what, before I forget, of talking of the power of communication, of the many, 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 many countless new things that I have to thank you for. One that I always remember is when I came back to Tottenham from university and you beat me up and taught me how to communicate with people plain and simple so they could understand me. Now we laugh at it, man, but you know what? I look back on the importance of that on so many levels, and people don't understand to be cruel to be kind. And you wasn't cruel. You was just making it very clear that method of communication worked out there and didn't have no place here and didn't have any value here because that's communication's sake. Whereas when you're on the ends of the zone, wherever you are, even in the workplace, communication is for the point of communication, for understanding, for expressing ideas, for getting people to, and that was probably one of the greatest lessons because it's so easy to come from those institutions and think that method of communication puts you on a level, on some echelon, so you continue to chat fart, frankly. And now you can't communicate with anybody.
Well, the other side of that was this. While you took that path, there were others who maintained their path, believing that education, was everything, but forgot one thing, that the melanin was a bigger communication. And of time when recession came, they were one of the first out.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah, and word. What can I tell you?
Even when they helped those to gain what they needed to gain to get a position, they looked for a pull-up. And the only pull-up was there to pull up your trousers and leave.
That's why I said on so many levels. Because whatever I achieved in university, that was just there for me to do, you know, for me, if that makes any sense. It was it was important to understand that didn't allow me to come back. That didn't have any value in itself. I can't explain what I mean, but I know you understand that. You understand it because you were the one who explained to me, listen, don't come here with that. Do you know what I mean? It's not that you shouldn't be proud of it or what you've achieved, but that doesn't have a value, you know, in itself. Not like it doesn't have value here. It doesn't have a value in itself. It doesn't, you know, raise you to that.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It doesn't isolate everything, but it's not insular.
No.
It's one thing, one aspect of who you are. And to survive outside, you need the whole you.
Yes.
You know, you cannot just wear that and expect that to carry you. No, you're more than that.
And most importantly, you showed me not to allow it to full circle the conversation, allow it to disconnect me.
Yes.
And I came back to the zone wanting to be connected, but what had happened was I'd forgotten how to communicate, because in order to survive in that environment, I had to chat foolishness in a foolish way. And you took the time to remind me how to communicate with normal people. No, it's not ends, no criminal team, no hot man team, just with normal people who, if I wanted to go forward and do the things I want to do, which was help people or even go forward commercially, I was going to have to communicate with. Because that environmental language only works in that environment. So unless I was going to go and do a PhD and lecture, it never had no place. I mean, it was a massive lesson, brother, massive lesson. And it's benefited me to this day.
Well, the biggest lesson that you learn is now you have children. You're learning again.
Believe me, fam.
You know, but really and truly, look, we're gonna have to sign off this. But really and truly, look, for each and every person, regardless of where they come from and what color they be, understand we are each other's keepers. You know, if we want this place to remain whole, you know, there'll be no peace, no rest until that takes place. And we have to understand that peace lies within each and every one of us. You know? So to that, blessed love, and we will talk soon.
No, that's blessed, man. You know what? I could keep you on this phone forever, as you know. So so what we'll do is we'll do that again. So my brother, thank you very much. Listen, before you go, do you want to shout out the projects by name so people can find them? I know you don't deal with the madness. All right, then people are gonna have to go and find him. If you're meant to find him, you'll find him. That's it. I was blessed. I was evidently meant to.
They found me already through this.
One love, my brother. I can't thank you enough, man. Take care, man. You and yours, man. Same way. Take care, you and yours.
Aye.
It gaff till it gaff. It gaff till it gaff. I'm in with the till it gaff. Illy with the till it gaff. Nit gaff, nit gaff. Nit gaff.